My mom always told me my dad abandoned us. I believed it for 25 years. Then I found a card, and letters, and court records. The truth is, he tried to reach out. She just shut him out of spite. I was 4 the day my dad left. That's what I've always been told. I don't remember the door closing. I don't remember crying, but I remember my mother kneeling in front of me and saying, "He doesn't want to be part of our life anymore." And that's the version I grew up with. She made it sound noble, the way she raised me alone. Said, she chose to keep going, even when it would have been easier to fall apart. Every birthday she planned perfectly. Every school event she showed up for. She did it all without him, and I believe she was a warrior for surviving what he did. We didn't talk about him. When I asked questions, she'd go quiet, sometimes angry, sometimes just hollow. He left. That's all you need to know. So I stopped asking. I learned that his name was off limits, that protecting her feelings came before answering my own. In elementary school, I lied to kids and said my dad had died. It felt cleaner, easier. Saying he left always made people look at me like I was something to be pitied. I didn't want to be pitied. I wanted to be enough. As I got older, I became her confidant. She'd talk to me like a friend, not a daughter. Tell me about bills, stress, how hard it was doing everything alone. At 12, I knew how to read her moods. At 14, I knew when not to bring up things I wanted. I didn't resent. Her, I just thought, this is what strong daughters do. She always said, "You're the only good thing that came out of that man." And I took it as a compliment. I didn't realize how much of myself I was erasing just to stay on her side. High school graduation. I scanned the crowd out of habit. He wasn't there. Of course not, she noticed. Grabbed my hand. Said, I told, "You, he doesn't care. He never has." I nodded, because it was easier than admitting I still wondered. In college, I met people whose parents divorced but still co-parented. They talked about joint holidays, awkward blended dinners, civil conversations. I couldn't relate. I didn't even know what my dad's voice sounded like. And I told myself that was fine. One summer, I asked if I could see my birth certificate to apply for something. She hesitated, said she'd have to dig for it. When she gave it to me a few days later, the top corner looked freshly torn. I didn't ask why. At 29, I believed I knew where I came from. I believed my father chose not to know me, that he walked out and never looked back. I believed I was raised by a woman who gave everything. And then one day, I opened a box in the back of a closet, and everything I thought I knew started to unravel. I was looking for an old textbook in my mom's storage closet. What I found instead was a shoebox marked "Past," Sharpie, all caps, like a warning. Inside, photos, letters, and a handful of cards. One of them was addressed to me. It was a birthday card. Simple, sweet. From when I was 6. I love you always, no matter what. Dad. I froze. Because my mom told me he left when I was 4. That he never tried to come back. I brought it upstairs cautiously, held it like it might fall apart in my hands. My mom was in the kitchen pouring tea. "Do you remember this?" I asked. She looked up, saw the card, and went completely still. She didn't deny it, just sighed and said, "He tried to come around once or twice, but it wasn't for you. It was to hurt me. Then, you were better off." The words were final, dismissive, heavy. The conversation ended before I could ask more. I couldn't stop thinking about it. The handwriting, the date. Why had he sent that? What happened after? Why had I never seen it before? It didn't feel like a one-time thing. It felt like something hidden. I called my grandmother, my mom's mom, asked her if she remembered anything about my dad trying to reach out after the split. She paused for a long time, then said, that was a complicated time, which meant yes. But also, don't ask me more. I checked Facebook. I'd done it before, years ago. Found nothing. But this time, I searched his full name, middle name included. A profile popped up, gray hair. Smile that looked like mine. It felt like time cracked open. I stared at the screen for days. Didn't send a message. Just looked, scrolled, watched. He had a family, a wife, a dog, 2 other kids, but not me. Not even a whisper of me. I finally messaged. Him kept it simple. Hi, you might not remember me, I'm your daughter. It felt surreal typing it, like saying something you're not sure is true until it's already out there, he replied, less than an hour later. I remember you every day. I've always hoped you'd reach out. I'd love to talk. When you're ready. I read it 5 times, and that's when I knew. Something about my childhood wasn't just painful, and it was rewritten. We agreed to meet for coffee, public place, neutral ground. He offered to come to me, said, wherever makes you feel safest. That was the first thing that caught me off guard. He wasn't nervous. He was careful. He looked older than I remembered. But I didn't really remember him. Just pieces, like a smell, a warmth, the echo of a voice I'd probably made up. He stood when I walked in, smiled, said my name like it still belonged to him. Hey, kiddo. And I almost cried. We talked for 2 hours. Not about what happened, not yet, just about now. He asked about my job, my favorite music, my cat, what I like to cook. Not in a checklist way, in a curious way, like someone trying to meet the person they already love. At the end, he slid a small envelope across the table. Inside were photocopies, letters, dozens, from birthdays, holidays, random Tuesdays. I mailed these for years. They came back, or disappeared. I kept copies just in case. My hand shook. I read them that night. Some were short, some were full of longing and hope and updates about his life. All of them ended the same way. I love you. I hope someday we talk again. I was 29 years old, and this was the first time I saw them. I asked him why he stopped trying. He looked down, said, I didn't, but I stopped fighting her. I realized it was only hurting you. I didn't know what to say, because I thought he left, and now I was realizing he lost. He never called my mom names, never blamed her directly, just said things. Like, she needed you more than she feared losing me. She wanted to be your whole world. It was the softest way to describe something unforgivable. He told me he went to court, showed me papers, custody filings, petitions. Everything ended in closed doors and dropped communication. I asked him why he never showed up anyway. He said, because showing up to a locked door didn't help you, and I didn't want to be the reason you cried. I sat in my car afterward and screamed. Not loud, not even angry. Just that dry, breathless kind of grief that no one teaches you how to release. Because it wasn't just about him. It was about the version of me who could have had both of them, and never got to try. For the first time in my life, I let myself say it out loud. She lied to me. Not to be cruel, not to punish her, but because I needed to stop protecting her from the truth she gave me to carry. I stopped telling my mom everything. That was new. For years, I told her about every decision, every bad day, every good one too. But now, I held things back, not out of spite, out of instinct. I didn't tell her I met him again, or that I'd seen the letters, or that he cried when he handed me a baby photo she told me he never kept. I told myself I was just waiting for the right time. But part of me already knew. She'd never accept that he wasn't the villain. She started calling more, just to check in. Except it felt like something else, like she could sense the shift and was trying to pull the rope back in. I felt guilt in my spine, like a kid sneaking out, not a woman asking questions. One night she asked directly, "You've been quiet lately. Are you okay?" I said, "Yeah, just reflecting on some things." She got quiet. Then, "I hope you're not thinking about him. That man doesn't deserve space in your head." I wanted to scream. Instead, I changed the subject. But inside, something snapped. Because it wasn't just that she lied. It's that even now, when I was an adult, she still expected my loyalty to be blind. I went through old journals, pages full, of entries where I comforted her, talked her down from breakdowns, held space for her anger, her grief, Her heartbreak. Never mine. I was never the child in those pages, just the therapist she could cry to without paying. I told my best friend everything. She listened, didn't interrupt, then said, "You know that's emotional parentification, right?" I said nothing. She added, "You weren't just raised by her. You were raised for her." I tried to talk to my grandmother again. She wouldn't say much. But her voice cracked when she said, "Your mom was scared. Scared you'd love him more." That was the first time I saw it for what it was. Not just a lie, a campaign. I wrote my mom a letter. Didn't send it. Just wrote, "I love you. I always have. But you taught me love means choosing you. Even when it cost me myself, and I don't know if I can keep doing that." I folded it and put it in a drawer. That night, I stood in front of a mirror and said it out loud. "I'm not your shield anymore." And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like her daughter. I felt like my own person, and it terrified me. I asked her to lunch, neutral place, middle of the day. No distractions. She smiled when she saw me. I felt sick, because I knew what was coming. She didn't. We talked about nothing for 10 minutes, the weather, a recipe, work. Then I said, "I've been talking to Dad." She blinked, smiled, faded. And just like that, the entire air between us changed. She didn't yell, didn't cry, just set down her fork and said, "That man doesn't deserve your time." I said, "Maybe, but he deserved a chance." I told her about the letters, the cards, the court filings, that I saw them, held them, read them. She said, "You don't know the whole story." And for the first time I said, "I know enough to know you didn't tell me the truth." She started crying, but not the kind that comes from regret. The kind that says, "Look what you're doing to me." I was alone. He left us. I did what I had to do. I protected you. And I said, "No, you protected your version of the story, and you used me to do it." She said, "You wouldn't understand what it was like. I was scared. You were mine. I couldn't let him come in and confuse you." I said, "You didn't protect me. You erased half of me." The restaurant felt too quiet. People around us kept eating, laughing, while I sat there grieving a childhood I thought was real, and mourning a mother I was losing in real time, because she didn't say, "I'm sorry." She said, "You're an adult now. You'll believe whatever you want." I paid the bill. She didn't argue. She just said, "Don't let him turn you against me." And I said, "You already did that. The day you made me carry your pain like it was mine." She didn't call for 3 days. Then she left a voicemail. "I hope you're happy. I gave you everything, and now you're treating me like I'm the one who left." I didn't respond, because for once, I wasn't going to make her feel better about hurting me. That night, I stood in the doorway of my apartment, lights off, shoes still on, and I let myself feel the full weight of it. I don't need her to understand what she did. I just need to stop pretending it didn't happen. I started journaling again, not like I used to, the kind of entries meant to make sense of her moods. This time it was mine, my feelings, my memories, my version of things. My dad didn't try to fill the silence after the confrontation. He just texted every now and then, "Thinking of you, hope your week's been kind." No pressure, no demands, just a presence I didn't have to earn. I told him about my childhood, the good parts, the strange parts. I said, "I used to feel so proud of how strong I was for her." He didn't say I shouldn't have had to be. He just said, "That must have been really heavy." And that meant more. I started remembering things differently. The moments that used to feel normal, like her venting or guilt tripping or crying after I made a decision without her, now felt wrong. Not abusive, not evil, just wrong, and not mine to fix. I told my therapist. "I think I miss her more now that I've set boundaries." She said, "That's because you're finally seeing the space she used to take up." And I realized missing her didn't mean I was wrong to step away. It just meant I was used to not choosing myself. I threw away the letter I never gave her. Not Because I didn't mean it, but because I no longer needed her to read it to feel heard. I called my dad and told him I wanted to meet my half-siblings. He got quiet, then said, "They'd love to know you." That sentence hit something in me that had been waiting 25 years to hear. We met at a park. They were nervous, so was I, but they smiled, asked questions, told stories about the man I only knew through old letters. And I realized I didn't just lose a dad, I lost a family. But now, maybe I didn't have to anymore. I started sleeping better, still had weird dreams, still flinched at texts from unknown numbers, but I didn't wake up carrying her weight. I just woke up. As me. One afternoon, I deleted the voicemail, the one where she told me I'd ruined everything. I listened to it one last time, sat still, let it sink in, then pressed delete, because I didn't ruin anything. I just stopped letting her rewrite me. I stopped feeling like I had to pick a side, not hers, not his, just mine. My dad and I don't talk every day, but when we do, it's never about the past anymore. It's about how my week went, what book I'm reading, a stupid video he saw, the kind of relationship I didn't know I missed because I never knew I could have it. I started drawing again, nothing serious, just lines and shapes and soft color. It didn't have to be impressive, it just had to be mine. She emailed once, a short message. "I hope you're okay. I don't know how we got here." I didn't reply. Because I do know how we got here, and pretending otherwise would just undo everything I've finally accepted. Some days I still feel her voice in my head. "Don't make me the bad guy. You know how much I gave up for you. I'm all you ever had." It doesn't make me angry anymore, it just makes me tired, so I breathe through it. And then I move on. I started telling people the real story, not the rehearsed version. My dad left. But the truth. I say, I thought he walked out, but he was pushed away, and I'm still figuring out what that means. And people nod. Some even say, "Me too." My little sister, my dad's youngest, asked if she could call me Sissy. She's 6. I said yes. Then locked myself in the bathroom and cried. Because for the first time, I didn't feel like I'd stolen something. Felt like I belonged. My mom sent a gift for my birthday, a bracelet, no card, just a return address. I held it for a minute, then boxed it back up, because some things look like love, but there's still manipulation in wrapping paper. I took a trip alone. A quiet town, old bookstores, no signal. I stood outside a small house. I hadn't seen in 25 years. It was the one we lived in when he left. It was smaller than I remembered, so much smaller. I sat on the curb across the street, not crying, not reliving, just witnessing. Then I whispered it out loud. "You didn't leave me. I just wasn't allowed to know you stayed." And with that, I stood up, walked away, and kept going. Mine, finally.